Okay, so this is the lab on determining the molar mass using the ideal gas law equation. So first thing that you're going to want to do is you are going to set up your hot water bath. So you should have a hot plate that is set on a ring stand that has a clamp, which goes on like normal. You twist to tighten it. You want to fill the 600 ml beaker up to about 400 mils of water. And then with a flask that you will not be using for anything else in the lab, you're going to go ahead and make sure that when you submerge this, that the water reaches to about the neck of the beaker. If it doesn't, add more water. If it's too full, take it out. Okay, so once you're done with that and you've got enough water in your hot water bath, you're just going to set that off to the side and you won't be using that for anything else. The next thing that you're going to want to do is go ahead and start heating your water. I suggest that you put it on high and let it heat while you are setting up everything else, so that way when it gets time you won't spend forever boiling your water. Next thing that you want to do is, you guys won't already have this pre-prepared. I did this lab just to test it beforehand. But you're going to get a square piece of aluminum foil about 5 centimeters by 5 centimeters. There will not be a hole in the center. Sorry, let's use this one. So you'll have a piece of aluminum foil that looks like this. It'll be smaller. You're going to want to go ahead and, on a clean 125 ml beaker, go ahead and make sure that it covers down the sides. And then you're going to use a piece of copper wire to kind of tie this to the top of the flask. And so you want to tighten it. I'm going to try and get you guys thinner copper wire, but that'll be for now. Then what you're going to do is, on the balance, go ahead and weigh the empty plus the aluminum plus the copper wire. Make sure you record that mass. Okay. Then what you're going to want to do is, you will have 3 different unknowns. I'm obviously just grabbing the bottle since it's here. I'm going to already have them aliquoted for you guys into 5 mils, and so you will just take it and then write down your unknown and dump it in there. But for me, let's just assume that this is my unknown. Okay, so you'll have some in there, and it should be one of the volatile liquids. All right, then what you're going to go ahead and do is cover it back up. I'm going to use my other piece of foil. Tighten the copper wire around it. Make sure you make an observation as to what your liquid looks like or smells like before you do this. Alright, and then you're going to want to poke a really small, tiny hole, smaller than the one that's actually in there, with a pin or a needle, so that any air that's trapped above when the gas starts boiling can escape. And then lastly, what you're going to want to do is, you're going to want to make like a little bib, and yours will be better than mine because I'll actually have aluminum foil, and you're going to want to stick it, I'm losing parts of my glove, you're going to want to stick it around the neck of this, just so that if any water condenses on the glass, that it won't condense on the foil, so we won't have that in our mass calculations. Other thing to note, you will be wearing gloves, so that way you won't leave any oils from your fingers on the glass when you go ahead and calculate the mass of this. Alright, next thing, you should have your water, should be pretty hot, so remember, don't touch this with your fingers. Or if you do, make sure you're very, very careful. You're going to want to make sure that you put this in at kind of an angle and tighten it. Don't let go until you're 100% positive that's on there securely. But if it's on an angle, what you can see, if you bring it over here, Mary, you can see that the liquid is in the bottom there. So what you're looking for is, you'll know you're done when all of that liquid looks like it's evaporated, because what you're going to do is, when we boil this, we're going to submerge it in a water bath, so that it'll keep the temperature constant. And whenever the boiling point of this liquid hits, it'll all turn into a gas, pushing any of the air out of there, and so all you'll be left with is just a beaker that's filled with whatever your liquid was. And then we're going to go ahead and condense it down and then calculate the mass of how much was in there. Alright, so you'll go ahead and submerge that. It doesn't need to be up to the neck, but you want to make sure the majority of it is submerged. And once again, it still is on an angle, so if you can see that, Marion, I don't know if you can see that you can see the liquid at the bottom of that glass. Okay? When you submerge it, you're going to want to go ahead and take temperature readings. Since it's just one of me, I put it through the clamp to hold the temperature probe securely, and then using a stirring rod, being careful not to break it, or hit the temperature probe. I went ahead and stirred. One of your partners will want to take time readings every minute and make a note of whenever you see all that liquid has disappeared. That's when you're going to want to go ahead and take this out. Make sure you note the last temperature. Once again, you guys will be doing this. I don't think it was, I did this and it wasn't hot enough that I couldn't use my hands, but it is pretty hot. Just making sure that you only touch the aluminum. Okay, so then what you're going to do is you're going to take it out of here. Oops. You'll put it into, I should have had a cool water bath. You'll submerge it into a cool water bath for 5 seconds, and then you're going to take it out of the cool water bath and submit it into the ice water bath for about a minute. And what that will do is any of the gas that's in there will be condensed into a liquid. And so we want the mass of that liquid so we can calculate how much was in there. You're going to go ahead and take off the bib. Go ahead and dry this off completely. And then once it's dry, take the mass of your now condensed liquid, and you should see a very small amount of liquid in there, plus the aluminum foil, plus the copper. Okay, so you'll also do this again. You'll go ahead and dump this out, make sure it's dry, and then grab another beaker and do it with the same unknown again for a second trial. All right, the last thing that you're going to want to do is we need to, so we've got the mass, we've got the temperature, you'll calculate the atmospheric pressure, and we'll talk about that in class. But you're also going to need to make sure that you calculate the volume of the flask, and you're going to be doing it 2 ways. You're going to be doing it with a graduated cylinder and also by mass. I suggest, so first of all, you would want to measure or take the mass of the empty flask. And this will be in your data table, so you'll remember it there. But the next thing that you would want to do is go ahead and find the volume of this. So if you've noticed, I already started with liquid in there, and I suggest you fill it all the way to the top. And then if you look, water has some special properties where it likes to attach to each other, so you can get it to form a really round dome. But gases aren't like that, so when you look at it from the side, you want to make sure that it's kind of flat and all full. And then I suggest that you find the volume of this by then dumping this out into your graduated cylinder. So I'm going to use a pipette to do this. I'm going to take some of it off so I don't lose any of this volume when I take my recording, and obviously I'm being sloppy. And then once you feel confident that you can pour it all into the graduated cylinder, go ahead and do that. So I'm going to fill it up to about the 100 ml line. Don't dump it all in there because, as a reminder, you cannot measure past the lines. And then I'm going to use my pipette just to make sure that it's even eye level with 100 mils. Once I do that, I'm going to go ahead and just dump it into a beaker just to keep track of. So this is 100 mils that was in my beaker. And then dump the remaining in there. And so for me, and then, so it's 100 mils plus, that looks like 45.1 mil. Don't forget to read to the tens place. Okay, so once you've got that by volume, make sure you note that. Then go ahead and pour all of that same liquid back into your beaker. And once again, it should be full right to the top. And then you're going to take the mass of that. Okay? And then by subtracting the mass of the empty, you can figure out what volume is in there. Last thing to do, and you want to do this as the very last thing you do because you're actually going to be using the same beaker that you used for the experiment, because you don't want the volume or the mass of that to change. But the last thing is you need to know the temperature of the water, because depending on the temperature of the water, water has a different density, and so when you calculate volume by mass, you're going to need that number. All right, so that's it. Thanks.